I selected the Laura Bates Everyday Sexism monologue for my project. While I was listening, I sensed this notion of anger and sarcasm, as well as an attempt to inform listeners that sexism still exists in society. All three of these things influenced my decision for the direction of my visual personality, message, and goals. Here are 5 different examples that I was inspired by and influenced my direction for my visual personality. In this first example, I was super into the visual style of this animation. It was simple blocks of color and basic geometric shapes that, when put together, make more complex visuals. I'm not an illustrator by any stretch of the imagination, but the basic geometric shapes look really clean in this animation. The next example, I really like the transition between the segments of animation. I think the bright color in the background is working well. It definitely looks better than something like boring black and white, and it was really engaging. And the contrast between the shapes in the animation and the background are working really well here also. In this next example, I wanted to focus on the moving blocks of color in this animation. What I thought worked really well was the way these moving blocks of color moved the viewer throughout the animation. It looked like the animation was actually covering significant distance, which I thought was really effective throughout this entire segment. In this monologue, I think there are some really good places for the type to be what tells the story rather than a graphic or some other type of visual. In my research, I was trying to find an example that I would use as a foundation for my own animation. This next example of kinetic typography helps convey the meaning of the words using just the letters that make up that word. In addition to letting the type be what tells the story through this monologue, I think there are some places where there's some potential to add words and graphics that are not directly mentioned in this monologue, specifically where Laura Bates states that women aren't facing real problems. My initial reaction when listening to this was to list all of the problems that women are still facing on the screen. But I wasn't sure entirely how fast I could list all of those examples and they would still be readable to the viewer. This animation in this example of how fast type can appear and disappear on a screen really helped me figure that out.